Hi, and welcome to this beautiful interview with a very good friend of mine, all the way from UK. Jackie Wilson from Empower Education is here with us to tell us a bit about her work with mindfulness and yoga and so many other things at the schools in England, in the main area of Nottingham. And I'm just so excited that you are joining me for this conversation. I am exploring mindfulness and yoga for children in so many ways, and I am very inspired by the work you do. So thank you for being with me here in this interview, Jackie.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be part of this. So thank you.
Thank you. So I was thinking, because you work very broadly with kids and mindfulness and yoga and meditation. Could you give us an introduction to what is you are most passionate about this whole range of different ways of being with children right now? So what is the biggest passion right now for you?
My biggest passion is to help the next generation to develop healthy, thriving minds for the future. We've got a generation that we can kind of guide into a place that they're more reconnected with themselves. I think that's what they've lost. As a society, we've lost a lot of connection with ourselves, and the more work we do on ourselves through yoga, mindfulness, or meditation, whatever way we find ourselves to the right place to do that, this reconnection is so powerful. And when we kind of we connect with children, we can then help them to reconnect with themselves, and that for me enables them to live a much more beautiful life for themselves. But then that's going to ripple out to the people that are around them, as is my own personal experience. So for me, it's helping children to really develop their abilities to, like I said, navigate life more easily.
And what is it with society right now? What do you see around you in Nottingham, and why is this even necessary? What is up?
Well, there's a lot of stimulation for children these days with all the technology, with just everything that's thrown at them with who they're supposed to be, rather than children really getting to know who they are and embracing that and bringing themselves, shining their own lights. What they're doing is looking where I fit in, who I'm meant to be, what am I meant to be like, what am I meant to look like, what am I meant to wear. They're going through all the external, they're being affected so externally that for me, that's the problem. They're going to technology to stimulate them, and then all of the adverts that are out there. The pressures in schools in this country is horrendous. The expectations are just so high, but then they're taking away all of those balancing subjects such as art and music, and all of those ones that are very therapeutic, that helps to balance children out with their academics. So, I mean, there's so many different things. The lack of emotional intelligence as a society. This whole power, the part that power plays in our governments, for example. They love having that power, and that, I think, is down to a lot of lack of self-worth. And so becoming in that place helps them to feel important. And we've got to feel important to ourselves, not what we achieve and what we can do, and what level of we can get in the workplace, as adults often do. We really need to be so self-accepting and understanding who we are, to help us come from the heart rather than this head place that a lot of us do.
Yes, well, I completely agree with you. And as I shared in my recent TEDx, I think that there is a problem with the parent generation as well. So because we see so many stressed out and depressed and anxious and parents who aren't really finding meaning in their work life, who aren't tapping into their hearts, who aren't feeling connected themselves, we face a big issue with how should they ever be able to then teach their children to stay connected if they've lost the connection themselves. So this is for me one of the big issues, and also one of the reasons why we need mindfulness and yoga and meditation in the schools, because it's the same as saying all kids have the same help at home with math or English or history class. They don't, and they, of course it varies from parent to parent how much they can help their children, and the same goes with a mindful parent, a present parent, a connected parent. So we see so many parents who aren't connected, and for me that is both sad and a bit scary actually to witness.
I totally agree. I think, my realization for myself was that I never had the education, and I'm talking education in terms of this reconnection and understanding who I was, how I worked, and where I was coming from. And I wasn't able many, many years ago to parent my kids mindfully. I wasn't able to do that. And to kind of educate myself through many different means, through experience of yoga and mindfulness and reading, and the courses that I've done, it's really helped me to start to really understand myself, so that I can now present myself and be more present with my own children. And the difference with my 10-year-old as opposed to my older two, although they're amazing, they're doing amazingly well, and the difference in my parenting is quite polar opposite to that. And it's nobody's fault. I think it's for our education system for the future, we need to embed a curricular subject that really helps children to develop, and also provide stuff in the community for parents to access. It's becoming more, there is more parents starting to tap into it now than there ever was. I trained 17 years ago as a children's yoga teacher, and it was unheard of. There was parents going, my kid would never do yoga. They're not going to sit still, but they didn't understand what yoga really was. But now there's so many more people wanting children to do that. So it's becoming, it's beautiful to watch it unfolding, and people being drawn into this arena. Which has, constantly inspired me to what action can I take to make a difference and help these families find their way.
Yes, and I just recently joined you at a very beautiful festival that was this June 2019 in Nottingham, and I guess some of the thoughts you just shared with us were behind creating such a festival, Positively Empowered Kids Festival. And I already hear that you're doing it again next year. So tell us about the idea behind creating such a festival.
Okay, so the idea for me really it came from actually a 13-year-old I worked with 3 years ago who, you talked about mental health. She had anxiety, depression, she was self-harming, she was suicidal, she had attempted suicide. And she'd gone through our NHS system, and it hadn't helped her. That particular girl, it hadn't helped. And all I did with her was give her an education in herself, teach her tools and techniques, and get her to figure out her way forward. She's now absolutely fine 3 years later. That's what she needed. But it dawned on me at that point that if she hadn't found me, they would have had no more hope. But I wasn't the only person, and I'd had quite a big network back then of different professionals, people who do wonderful work with young people to help them develop, to reconnect, to be more mindful, and many other things. And so I decided to start a group, which back then was called the Wellbeing Hub for Families, and gathered the people together. Nothing much came of it apart from having a network of people. And it was this year, it suddenly dropped to me that we have to do something as a community to start to support our local community of families to come together, to connect, to explore what's out there, so that people could find us.
Yes.
So I then connected with two of my beautiful friends in the networking world, Claire Clements, who runs Positive Pants, and Susan Brooks, who runs the Positive Kids magazine. And
beautiful people.
Them, and we'd had little conversations, but it just bloomed from there. We put it out there, and within a day we had about 20 people signing up to have stalls. You know, people just wanted to be there, and it just flowed so beautifully. It was quite an bizarrely easy festival. To say we'd never done one before, to organise. It was hard work, but it never felt difficult. It felt it was really meant to happen. And the purpose of it, as I said, it was to a place that children and their parents, carers, maybe educators could gather, could talk to each other, could try things out that they'd never tried before, to get tools and tips and ideas and connections themselves, to be able to support themselves to grow, their children to grow. And we're going to continue that work. You know, as I said, the next festival's happening, but it's kind of bloomed again. It's become a whole beautiful array of potential. We've already got another organisation that would like to run one of our festivals up in the north of the country. We're going to have another one in Nottingham next year. We've got 8 expressions of interest for other festivals around the country, potential of Canada. And so there's the festivals that are going to be the core. And then outside of that, well, actually part of the festival this year, it just actually happened that we had some children running stalls.
Yes, I saw that.
It was pretty incredible. And I hadn't understood the reason why they were there until afterwards. And I realised that actually, although my intention was for other children to be inspired by children,
yes.
You know, I think that for me is the way forward. You know, we can build these children up. They've got so much wisdom, so many gifts inside of them. The more I listen to children, the more I learn. And I'm aware that I would never call myself a teacher. I'm a facilitator and a coach, to listen, to guide and allow them to shine. And what happened, there was conversations going off with a young man on a stall with his mother, who said, I want to run a stall, I want to run my own business. And so what I've decided would really like to do is have a young market next year at our festival. So we work in schools with children with labels like ADHD, dyslexia, that maybe academically are lower and can never be the highest achievers, but yet they have a potential and they can make a very beautiful, successful life for themselves if they believe it. So I want to give opportunities to young people to be able to, like one of the young people I work with, to achieve hugely and understand that you don't have to have the highest exam results to be brilliant. You can be brilliant, you can shine and make something of yourself. So that's what I'd like to happen. I also really want, in connected with all this, we're going to create this to be a social enterprise. It's have a community of young people, from sort of 11 upwards, who come and experience meditation, mindfulness, inspirational speakers, self-development in all its forms, neuroscience and everything else. Be surrounded by people who have stepped up in life, who've got stories, who maybe also were struggling with mental health, with being labelled, and have become successful. So we can really inspire them to grow in the community as community leaders. And also an academy, I'm calling it for the moment, where young people come and gain work experience within our social enterprise, but at the same time are coached to grow as a person. So they come and do some work experience, which is really important, because in this country it's really hard to get a job when you're young. So building them up so that they can have that opportunity within our network, our social enterprise, and they may gain work from it. As a community, then we can build these young people up to go back into their schools and affect others. to bring the parents in and do parent workshops. So it becomes a whole family gathering, and children can follow us through. We'll have online stuff. It's all early days yet, but the ideas are sparking and growing. But what I can see is I want this, in my mind, to be run by young people. So we facilitate, but we enable them to be empowered enough that they can run this, support younger children. So it becomes a collaborative co-creation with young people.
Oh, I love it.
Kind of vision.
Yeah, well, I can completely see it. And usually when I can see the energies of it, it is already done. So that's the feeling of being in flow and working with the light and following your passion and unfolding your mission, is that we get so much help from the universe by saying yes. And even I know you, and I know that you have to be bold as well to take on this big quest. And I know from myself that I need to be bold many times on my journey as well. But every time I say yes to just one step further, it's like wisdom pours in to how all of that is going to happen. Do you share that?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it does. And sometimes I'm just like, okay, just quieten down, because there's only so much I can do.
I know.
But the more young people that we have, the more that we can expand that. So it doesn't matter. We can just park it, and then that can grow another time.
Yes. It's so true. And also, we don't need to understand everything. Just do what we understand, and then all of a sudden it goes like, okay, this is what we were doing. I didn't get the complete overview, but now I get it. Like you said, with why you had some children have the stalls this year, and I saw them and they did a beautiful job. My stall was just next to a girl who sold cakes.
Yes.
She's been baking for days, and she was giving, I think, for some cancer program she was donating to, which I also thought was really cool, that she was making donations out of what she sold. I like that.
Yeah, and I think that that's something to really start children recognizing, is where people are struggling, what difference can they make? And it could be to run a little business, a little bit of money, and provide some of that to the charity. My own daughter and Claire's daughter ran a stall, and they gave a percentage to the charity that we were supporting in the festival.
Yeah, I like that.
And they know they're making a difference as well. So they're growing as people, but also making a difference to others. And the more young people we can get to do that, it gives you a reason to do it.
I know. So cool. Well done. I've been thinking quite a lot about this whole empowering of children, because my girls are now 10 and 13. And when the little one turned 10, something happened in me, in my journey and my mission as an author and a healer and a light worker, and all I wanted to do. So to me, it seems like the first 10 years is all about nurturing, loving, nesting, and all of, like, just being around them, being present, being mindful, lots of love, comfort, safety. And now what I'm thinking and what I'm getting from my journey here is that now that they're both 10 and above, it's also about me being a role model in showing them what they can achieve if they follow their hearts.
Yes.
So instead of me just retiring now, sort of, I'm building more on my journey and going more global and bringing more products to the market and creating more different things to fulfill my mission, hoping also that it will inspire them. And they will feel empowered to work different, because I built my own companies. So just to show them what we can do if we work from the heart, and if we're open, and if we understand how the whole universe is helping us out, as long as we unfold our missions. So this whole empowering theme that you're also building on is just so exciting and so important. Yeah,
I've done a similar thing. I know the school that you visited.
Yes.
Was, the lovely school in Nottingham. My whole the whole thing I've done with these young people is I've worked with 10, 11 of them and it's been a real co-collaboration. We've co-created together, and I've just facilitated it. It's been quite an incredible journey for me to do that. So I've helped them to understand self-development, understand neuroscience, understand the mindful tools they can use in the moment to self-calm, to self-regulate. I've helped them understand some yoga breathing techniques, and to also to open their own minds to create their own self-regulation tools in the moment. And it was such an incredible, heartwarming moment when I said to those children that they'd had time to practice these tools that I'd taught them. And then one day I said, okay, so now you've learnt my tools, have you got any ideas of any other activities, breathing techniques, anything else that we could do to create your own school toolkit? And we had to sit down because those children were just full of wisdom. It was just one of those mind-blowing moments that you have to really take in. They were making up tools like the traffic light, where if you're feeling angry, stop, breathe, and you come down to amber, and then you breathe and you come down to green, you're ready to go. And so they created that themselves. They had a butterfly one and it was a mindful technique that I hadn't taught them. So they imagined a place that they really would love to be, that helped them to feel peaceful. And they imagined themselves as a butterfly, just gently flying there and then resting in the place that made them peace. I mean, and they made up some more, and we had to say to them, you have so many ideas, we're going to have to vote. And they then decided how they were going to teach it to the rest of the school, taught it to the rest of the school. Each class, they did 7 classes, one by one. They knew exactly how they wanted to do it. Just amazing. We took them to a conference, a teachers' conference I ran last year. They took over the panel. We didn't even speak because everybody wanted to ask the kids questions. They ran a family wellbeing workshop at our festival. They then developed, just before the summer, which you won't know, a training for the next generation of resilience leaders, and another school that was interested. They created a 2-hour training. They did it. They led it. I just facilitated it. And it has really, really shown me the power in really trusting and allowing kids to find their way to come, because they are little teachers, little leaders, and we just need to be there to guide them and trust them to do it. It's just been an incredible experience, to be honest.
Well done. And I'm just, it's no surprise to me, because I actually visited this school when I was visiting you in June. You took me to the school, and I went in to teach heart light meditations to 3 different classes, age 9-ish.
They were 7 to 9.
Yes, something like that. And when you come to another country, you haven't been to the school before, the children don't know you, you have different expectations of how that's going to unfold. And I had a couple of hours at the school before flying back home to Denmark. And I must say that it completely blew me away. I don't even think I understand what just happened that day yet, because these children were just so amazing. And it's a public school.
Yeah.
It's in a neighborhood in the suburbs of Nottingham.
Yes.
It is divided between 2 different neighborhoods. One is better off than the other. So we have kids from all parts of society coming to this school, and they're sitting there in their school uniforms, which I like, because in Denmark we don't have school uniforms. So you can easily see a difference. If you have different social levels, you see it in a class. So you sit there, and I have no idea who is who in this class. I see boys and girls, and you just introduce a few mindfulness techniques, and then I got to teach them. And the light that came out of those children that day, and the way they started meditating with me, a strange woman from Denmark speaking funny English, and all of this was just amazing. So I just have to congratulate you, because I know that you have trained these classes and you've been a big part of the school, and I know you have a close collaboration with some of the teachers and the headmaster. Headmaster is a
mistress.
Yes, so it's a woman. Yes, and ever since coming back this summer, I've been thinking, what did you teach them before I came? Like, this is not something I see in Denmark when I come to a classroom. Of course, there are different cultures involved as well. Danish children tend to have more freedom. They are also more noisy. They don't respect adults and teachers the same way, for many reasons. We don't go into that. So it was just a complete different experience for me. So can you tell us a little bit about what you have been doing at the school, how long you've been there, how many classes, how many hours you spend per week, and what you actually do with the children? I'm really curious to hear this.
Well, some of them, right from when they were 4 years old, were doing yoga with me at the infant school, which is a separate school to that one, when they were younger. So we'd have weekly classes of yoga and mindfulness, and only half an hour sessions for the classes, and it would rotate to who I was working with. So all of those children that you saw had done yoga with me, and then when it wasn't their turn, we had after school clubs, so they, if they wanted to, if they were very drawn to it, they could come to the after school club, and then it's one of those things that they would always ask, and unfortunately the head before the one that was there, she wasn't really interested in having it, so they didn't have it from when they moved up to junior school. So the new head has took that on. So I'm in there weekly doing a little bit of yoga, a little bit of mindfulness, and it's amazingly incredible how much they remember. To say that some of them, it had a break because I wasn't allowed to do it in the school, and once they would often come to me and say, when can we do that yoga again? When can we do that yoga again? Because they were so connected. It really helped them to connect. And it was interesting that actually when they didn't get the opportunity to do it, they knew that they needed it and wanted it. And because they'd asked the new head teacher quite often, they wanted to do it, she's put it into the school again. So and then obviously the toolkit that I was talking about, that is a whole selection of yoga and mindfulness breathing techniques. So each classroom has those tools, each teacher knows those tools, and so what you have happening within the school is children using those tools, teachers using those tools, children reminding teachers to use those tools when they notice, and they are starting to notice teachers when they're stressed, and they are reminding them to do a breathing technique. And so we have got this just kind of connection in that school where they're working together to help each other. And so you've got peers helping peers, as I say, reminding the teachers, which does have a massive effect.
Yeah, well, can you imagine? Like you say, I also often have said you teach your children mindfulness or you teach your children meditation, but that's not really it, is it? We just facilitate it, and then they teach us what it's all about, right?
Absolutely.
So when we came through the 3 classes, one of the things I noticed you did, and you've talked about today, is that you actually allow them to educate each other. So you had them run some of the mindfulness exercises that you had taught them. And the funny thing is that I know you have a whole toolbox of exercises, but in all 3 classes, randomly, they picked the same 3 exercises. So I thought we should go through some of those. So the viewers get an idea of what you've been teaching them. So the first one that comes in mind was the
Take 5.
Yes, let's hear about that.
The Take 5 is quite a known exercise. It's not just personally mine, but it's where you raise your hand, you put one finger against the side of your thumb, and the sense of touch, it does have an effect on the brain. It's kind of a distraction, but also that sense of touch, it affects a certain area of the brain that helps to really kind of grasp the self-regulation. So all you do is focus on breathing in as you move up your thumb. So you breathe in deeply.
So let's invite the viewers to do it with us.
And then breathe out, lowering down the thumb. And then the first finger you breathe in, raise the finger up to the top. And then breathe out, coming down, finger, and 3 more. So we breathe in, coming up. Breathe out and go down. And again, breathe in to the top and breathe out. And the little finger, breathing in. Rest and then breathe out. And just that focus for 5 breaths can be enough to just shift you out of that emotional state and start to rebalance you.
I love that. I even feel the difference just doing it with you now. So the next one I remember was a feather in the hand.
Yeah, that was one of the children's made up tools that they came up with. So this wasn't anything to do with me. So it was imagining that you have a feather on your hand. And if you have an emotion of, I don't know, worry or feeling scared or feeling angry, you can just place it in the feather, take a deep breath, and just blow it. Let it go. Just let it go. Just let it. And the amazing thing is the imagination of children, us as human beings, we can just imagine letting go. It's just that process of knowing that's what we're feeling and then just letting go.
Oh, I love that. I see you're a little bit more south than I am where I'm sitting now. So we already have leaves turning red and yellow. So the whole season of autumn that's rolling in over Denmark right now is also reminding me to let go. Like just let the trees teach us to let go. So the third one had them all laughing. So let's hear about the force a smile, what you call it.
So the smile, in fact, releases happiness chemicals in the brain. It just does. And this was actually, although it was a tool that I gave them, it wasn't me who came up with the fingers. It was one of our resilience leaders. And he made everybody laugh in my conference as well. That was the first time I did it. But this is his directions, where you take 2 fingers, you place them on your lips at the side, and then you lift your face up. I don't know what it is, but it's quite magical when you actually force yourself to smile.
Yeah.
But that was his directions when he was teaching it to the teachers, and it stuck from that moment on because they all laughed.
Yeah. I should have brought it. I actually have a smiler. Do you know the smiler? Have you heard of that?
No.
It's a woman from Iceland who has made a little jewelry. You wear it around your neck and you put it up, and it actually does that. It lifts up. So she's like, let's smile some more. And
wow.
Yeah, that's the smiler. But you're doing it with your fingers. But it had all the children laugh. So one of the classes we came into, you could sense the difference between the atmosphere in the classrooms, depending on the teachers and the students, and I guess the energy of the day. But one of the classrooms we came in, we saw 2 children who had quite some anxiety. And when they came in, it was very obvious that they didn't like this strange woman coming in and what was going to happen now.
Yeah.
I noticed, because I was paying attention to these children, of course, doing all I could for them to feel better during the class. And what beautifully happened was that one of them at the end actually raised his hand and joined the conversation. So what is it when we are doing all these mindfulness and meditation exercises? What do you see is happening to some of the children who are anxious and who don't like that a new teacher is coming in, or like what is it you see in these children who are struggling a bit?
Well, I think it's a fear state, isn't it? If they're already in an anxious state,
Yes.
And it was particularly a certain classroom, wasn't it, where
Yes.
you could feel the energy from the teacher as well, and that wasn't helping the situation. But it's, for me, when I'm working with anxious children or whatever they're presenting, it's about really just doing my best to connect with them, to let them know through my body language that I completely accept where they are, and just do my best to allow them to trust me. And quite often that does happen. And it's, if they can't shift through it, then that's fine. But I often find that children are ready to explore something that's going to make them feel a little bit better, and when they've been given permission to do it, and there's no expectation there. There's always making sure with these children there are no expectations, that this is something to do. I invite you to join in if you'd like to, and if I do notice, then it's just allowing them to maybe saying in a comment, if you don't feel that you want to join in, that's fine, just sit quietly, and then giving them the language that these tools are going to help us if we're feeling a little bit tense. And we can do, when I work with children, if I notice there's a lot of tension, we can do some tensing and relaxing, a bit of yoga stretching. It's like I was saying to you before about, I work quite intuitively with children. So it's sensing the room, sensing the group, and changing things if necessary to flow with particular children that are in there.
Yeah, I love that. So one of the things I'm curious about right now. So in Denmark, I have initiated a platform called the Momo Academy, where I'm currently gathering all the mindfulness and yoga and meditation teachers who are working on a freelance basis or are hired at the schools and who do work with mindfulness, meditation, yoga on a let's say weekly basis with children. I'm trying to sort of map who's working in this field in Denmark, and another Danish Center for Mindfulness at one of the big universities. They're working more like top down, getting into parliament with it, creating programs like regular mindfulness programs, teach the teacher mindfulness and all of that. So we have different, like I'm like more bottom up and the other people are more top down oriented. So we are of course looking abroad to see what's going on. And I recently did an interview with a Danish lady working in Washington on one of the American programs, Peace of Mind. And now I'm here with you, and I'm curious to hear what is the current status of mindfulness at schools in the UK right now.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying with the top-down approach. There is, I think it's mindfulness in schools, might be wrong, but there's about 370 schools are being brought this mindfulness curriculum. I don't know how that's going at the moment. I haven't actually looked that up, but the amount of schools we have in this country is a lot, and 370 is a good start. But it's not enough. We need this in every single school. We really, really do. It's one of those things that just changes the behavior. It enables children to reconnect, to notice, to be the observer of themselves and others. And for me, this is something that is coming, but it's very slow. And so there are programs that people do individually. They'll train up with, say, .B, and they'll go out and try to obtain work in schools. Unfortunately, school budgets in this country are really, really poor. And so many schools can't pay for additional activities within the school time. Some schools don't see the need for having things like that. There's a variation, and for me, I didn't mention in Kelisic, the school itself I'm working in, I mentioned about earlier, has 20 minutes a day well-being. Every single day they do something around well-being, and they've chosen to do that. They do it in-house. So for me, if we can get more teachers that train to do stuff within schools, that would be great. But I'm like yourself, I'm going from the bottom up
Yes.
that way. So yeah, so it's not where it could be, but things are moving. So in a positive.
So there are different, articles running on Facebook saying that the English schools are now receiving mindfulness. What you're saying is it's a fraction of schools.
Oh, very small fraction.
Very small fraction. Okay.
Very small fraction. We've got thousands of schools in this country, and 370 probably about 5%.
Yeah, and I feel like there's such an urgency in this that I can't wait for some reform or governmental interference, or I don't even now we just changed the government again. Like, it's I can't wait. Like I see the children are needing our guidance now, and I see how easily mindfulness or yoga meditation can help so many children at the same time. So for me, the whole mapping, like I see you doing also with the festival, so who's involved in Nottingham, and now you're going to other cities, that's a big inspiration for me. We should do something completely similar here in Denmark. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, happy to.
So I would love to end this interview with where you see us like 10 years from now. What is it a where do you see our work is in 10 years?
Okay, so this is just my first thinking of this, but what I'd like to see is the communities in this country. I'm just talking in my country for now, but it will have rippled out in 10 years time massively. In the work that I'm doing, Positively Empowered Kids will be nationwide, and it will be so the local communities will have connected together. So I see it kind of as a spider's web. Little parts are starting to happen, but I'd like to see that all co-connected. So the center point is Nottingham, where we started. It's out, everybody's feeding into each other. We're having webinars, we're having online programs, so everybody has access, whether it's primary school, whether it's our secondary school system, whether it's the kind of higher education or the university level. There's something for every young person to access in the community, because I know we can't rely on our government to make it school-wide. And I, like you say, I can't wait for them to do that. So I'm taking action in the community, because once it's in the community and we have a lot of voices together, we can march in there peacefully and have meetings and start to say, this is making a massive difference in our communities. This needs to be a curriculum subject for children. And so the more voices we have, I've got a teachers community, a Teachers Come First community that I'm really working on building with 2 other amazing people. The more that we can bring these communities together. So 10 years time, the communities are together. We are having really big talks with the government. Things are happening. The curriculum's changing. We have a framework through Ofsted, which are our kind of governing body in education, and they are shifting. For 2020, they have a new curriculum which includes well-being that they're going to be marking schools on or judging schools on. So the tide is turning. So I think that the more we can feed into and we can have those connections within government at government level, then by 10 years time, so that's 2030 nearly, there's going to be a curriculum subject. It's going to say that in all schools.
Yes. 10 years. I mean, how long have we come in just a few months here after the festival? See how
Oh,
much has evolved. 10 years is a long time to make implementations.
it's definitely going to be done.
Well, Jackie, I have to end the interview. Even though I would love to talk to you much more, we should do a second episode.
Okay.
In after Christmas or something, when you know even more about your big empowering project here. So a few things to leave our viewers with. So one of the things that I know many of my Momo Academy instructors would love to know is that toolbox of mindfulness exercises and all of what your children, the pupils, have developed with you. Can we read about it somewhere? Can we see some of the exercises that you use? Because what I saw in that school was just profound, and I think you're setting some standards that we can learn from.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So it's called the Emotions Toolkit. So we have a website, which is www.emotionstoolkit.com. You could type that into YouTube and you will find some explainer videos of what the toolkits are.
Perfect.
We will be doing, it doesn't explain all the tools, but it shows you them. We will be doing some online training so that it's easily accessible. We've made it simple because some of these tools are really simple enough for anybody to learn, and they are effective. And so we are doing an online training for families so that they can purchase a toolkit if they want to, and then the training comes with it so they can learn all the tools online. They get a resource pack which comes with it, which explains how to teach it to do it with your children, and discussions you can have. So that's there in the online community now. So yeah, that's where you can find that.
Perfect. And where else can we follow your journey online? Are you on social media, or tell us where we can find you?
Yeah, so we've got Facebook, which is Empower Educ, and that's Empower Education. We have Emotions Toolkit, so you can just search that, and Positively Empowered Kids, or it's at PEK Festival. You can find us there. I'm on LinkedIn under Jackie Wilson. I'm on Twitter. You can look me up there as well under Empower. I think it's Educ, as well.
Yeah.
Same.
It's hard to remember all those, but we will put them in below so you can find all the different links. Thank you so much, Jackie. You're such an inspiration, and I just love following your work and feel very lucky to be able to work with you when we get together. So
thank you.
From Denmark, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Gitte. Thanks for having me. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.